always tell them this is your home, just like we tell many other politicians. So I think we may be sued for that. But we tell everyone and say, listen, you are welcome, this is your home. And so this is Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, who is a presidential aspirant for the Patriotic Front. Ambassador, welcome to Politics Analyst.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back here, and good morning to our dear listeners and viewers and all those following us on social media.
You are our first guest actually in 2023 on Politics Analyst.
Oh, I'm glad to be unleashed for 2023.
There we go, and so on. And we are so glad in that you are in opposition and you were in government just a year plus ago. And there's quite a lot that has been happening. But just maybe on your side, compliments of the season, we must say, and coming up, how does the year look like for you?
Well, the year looks very hopeful, but quite difficult for our people. We've started with the highest cost of living in the last 30 years, the price of fuel, price of goods and services remains very high. The money supply, where there is a critical shortage of money supply, partly because of government policy to curb inflation and achieve a single-digit inflation rate, but also their failure to pay suppliers and contractors who are owed billions of kwacha. There's about 77 billion of domestic debt. That's money that belongs to ordinary people. The 12-hour load shedding, unimaginable that will go back to 12-hour load shedding. Remember, President Edgar Lungu declared that load shedding is over in 2020 when he commissioned the Kafue Gorge lower, when they installed the first two machines. He declared that load shedding is history in this country. And when President Hakainde Hichilema also came, and I think he was given a brief about our power, he also declared that load shedding was over. It was a thing of the past. So why do we have load shedding? So I hope you and me can now criticize and discuss that crisis.
And we're talking here on Politics Unleashed. 0977977860 is the number that you're going to be calling us on later on. And we're talking with Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba on matters of politics. And we are saying politics and development. Is it developing in our country? Are we making anything that we can look at and say, yes, we're making headway in this line? And we will go line by line. Some of the matters that obviously have been an issue for people to talk about, and you as politician, are matters that have to do with CDF disbursements and all that. And we saw in the budget, and now we know that we are running in 2023. We're running this budget and the increment of the CDF, but much more the disbursement. And if you can, please also touch on some of the contentious issues that are now being seen, where people are saying it doesn't make sense that now the committees are the ones that are going to be handling the CDF running, other than how does it work also with the Constitution and many other aspects to that.
Okay, so let's start with the principle. The principle is decentralization, devolution. The principle is that everything is centered in Lusaka, at the center, both resources and decision-making. So there's been this long-term goal that all governments have had that ambition, that we devolve the powers from the center to the periphery, where you allocate decisions and resources at the local center. Because remember, there's no one who knows the problem than the people on the ground themselves. So why don't you let them identify the problem and resolve the problem? How do they do that? You provide resources and capacity, and that's where we've been lacking. The decentralization policy, a document I've been part to many years, says we should devolve to the district council, to municipalities, empower the municipalities to run especially basic things such as education, health, and basic development. But of course, the big things, issues to do with infrastructure development, construction of these major like hospital schools, should still be left by the center because of the expertise required and sometimes the scale of resources that is required. So that's a principle. There's nothing wrong with decentralization. The trouble is people mistaking CDF as decentralization. And every time I hear the president, I hear his minister of local government. You had our dear brother, Mwamba here, the Minister of Justice. When you hear them talk, they think CDF is decentralization. No, CDF is not decentralization. The Constituency Development Fund, as set out in 1996, is exactly that. Resources to develop the constituency, resources to help the MP and his local people make decisions for urgent things. But I think there is a huge attempt to make CDF as a decentralization policy, which is folly, and that is why it is failing, and it is failing remarkably. Last week, the Minister of Finance issued a statement, and the Treasury stated that he had released the entire CDF to our people. The question is not whether the money has been released. The question is who has utilized the money, how much has been utilized, what are the bottlenecks. So you realize from government's own statistics is that of the entire money released, only 4% has been used. Now that's tragic. Only 4%. 96% is sitting in banks. 96% is still sitting in banks across the country, and it doesn't benefit anyone. And for rural districts like Shangombo or Kaputa or Luingu, there is no bank near. You have to come to the provincial center. That's where you find the bank. So the money is sitting at a bank, whether it's National Savings and Credit Bank or any bank, that Zanaco or any local bank at provincial centers or larger towns. So that's not development. A few MPs have utilized it. For example, buying what we call yellow machines, a grader or front-end loader. That's not development. Okay, so what happens if you grade the roads? Then what happens to such a huge, expensive machine? That is why development was taking place at a district. The district had plans of when to do what. Of course, they lacked resources. So if you are planning on devolution, decentralization, then you empower the district to do all that work.
And we saw...
And then another one that has been given before, Henry, you come in, is the issue of grants. Most of them have gotten that 1.8 million grants.
Yes,
and they gather people. So they gather people, then they give them that 1.8 million kwacha check. Sometimes there are more. There are maybe 400 people, and it's coming back to maybe 2,000-3,000 kwacha. A person or a group is not even a lot of money. But however, I recognize that these are teething problems. But my caution is that there should be no recognition that this money or CDF is decentralization. The two are totally different. And that's why we have seen where they are playing with money, book money, because the district has money for a lot of activities, for development at the district. What Ministry of Finance has done is just to remove that money from the district and give it to the constituents and call it CDF. So there's been an up from 1.6 million to 25.7 million, and now to 28.6 million.
And when you look at the figures, I mean, like you did say, I mean, I had Honorable Haimbe here last week, and I said, look, money is figures, and those figures, if they are not actualized to be money in my pocket, per se, or money to be used for a certain project, then it's just money being mentioned that it's a lot of money that the government has pushed in. But what would you have loved done in the area of CDF to just make sure that it moves very smoothly? Because if it fails, then it means the people of Zambia will have been failed for 5 years.
So the president is from the private sector, and then he's from the opposition. He has very little experience in government. Many times he should listen. I say this, giving CDF as an example. There is a developed document, well-developed document with coordination of cooperating partners, our planners, and it has been developed for many years, tried out, tested, and it's out there just for rolling out. The decentralization policy. In decentralization policy, CDF is a small component. Small component. CDF is not decentralization. And I have seen the guidelines that the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development has issued to councils of priority issues. So there is a shopping list given to constituencies to buy a monitoring vehicle, a 4x4. They've bought that for them. Make desks, ensure that a scholarship fund this. So there is a long list, shopping list. And that makes a mockery of CDF. So if you're bringing a shopping list from Lusaka, what will the Ward Development Committees make? What will they decide if you are guiding what needs to be bought? Do they all need a 4x4 monitoring car? Maybe Kaputa needs one. Maybe Nsama needs one. Maybe Shangombo needs one. I don't know if Lusaka Central needs a 4x4. The needs are just totally different. Even monitoring vehicle itself might not be a priority because that's a lot of money. But you at the center, lock these resources and buy for the constituencies this monitoring vehicle. So the issues are that, like I'm saying, there needs to be a separation. The president must be appraised with a decentralization policy, a well-developed policy supported by framework, structure, and legal process. That is the one to implement. It's comprehensive and it brings development to our people. It brings proper devolution and decision making to our people. And for the councils, they raise revenue because it allocates what they can do, revenue, local revenue that they can retain. And revenue that comes from the center then helps develop the constituencies. That, for me, should be our approach. CDF, I refuse to discuss it in isolation because it's a small component in the decentralization policy. It's a small component. It's not the decentralization policy.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. And now we have also noticed that while as we talk about our development of the districts and provinces and the like, when we look at the development of the entire country, we do hear of huge figures, and most of these usually come from IMF, the World Bank and all that, and we always feel so good when we manage to get the loan, like the way we did the bailout package. There was all jubilation, but at the end of the day, we seem also to tie ourselves because most of those conditionalities are not known, not until we start rolling out. The IMF situation with our country, Ambassador, what's your position with the way we are going now in regards to us developing our country?
Yeah, okay, so my last thought on CDF, absorption capacity, that's why only 4% of the money released has been used this year. We are now rolling over 22 money into 2023 because the money was not used. What are the issues? And I wish these leaders could discuss what the crisis is. What are the bottlenecks? The bottlenecks is simply absorption capacity. Does your local area, your constituency, your district, do they have a full procurement unit of qualified people that, as mandated by the Zambia Public Act, do you have procurement? Do you have experts to determine most of the things that you want? Do you have planners who helps you as leaders in the province? They bring the statistics to you, Serenje. Look, here you have upper, lower. Upper, you have no water. Lower, you have water, but you have dumbbells and you may have difficulties. Terrain, you're planning a road. That road will cost probably 5 years of CDF if you have to do the road in Namshakende or in Limulunga, where we are. So the planners will give you scientific and established information to help you as leaders make decisions. The procurement unit will see the best way. But what this government has done is just to say, form a cooperative, and it allows all its party cadres to form cooperatives and send them to CDF and apply. And you've seen youth, some even beat up our workers, our public workers, because they thought that these people were sitting on their money. There has not been proper awareness of what that money is. It's just not to form cooperatives and go and line up. That's not the purpose of CDF. It has to bring development to both to the people and to the communities. You have to have planners who help. What do we do in this area? Or in Imbala, beekeeping. Can we form a cooperative that keeps bee? If it's in Ikelengi, maybe to bring honey. Can the planners, the capacity we are talking about, will help you utilize that money. Otherwise, in the manner that government has been speaking, I can tell you it's a looting exercise. Because you release these large chunks of money, 28 million. You tell your cadres to form cooperatives and queue up and get the money. This is a looting exercise. It's a frenzy eating party where there is government money at local level and all of you are queuing up with bogus programs then to loot public resources. That should never be the purpose of CDF. Coming to the IMF, yesterday, the IMF released a report. It's a diagnostic report on our governance and on our governance record, the last few years. It was done in 2022. For implementation, the document is complete. I've published for me my summaries that I've found, on my own page, and it has made international news. One of the key issues that the international news has picked was that public resources and tender processes were hijacked, by entrepreneurs and, by inflated costs, and that it was a way to steal money. But ours, the document is comprehensive. But I've frowned upon the document. Why should this government take the IMF to come and do a diagnostic report of our country? Why should they come and determine what is wrong with our country? And the report even has proposed solutions. Amend this act, amend the BOS Act, amend the Banking and Financial Act, amend this. So when you see this flurry of amendments that have come to Parliament, then you realize, these guys are working from a document from the IMF. So these are not indigenous programs. Look at a report. It has proposed solutions that this government has been carrying out. We do not want foreign prescriptions. We do not want foreign diagnosis. We want to diagnose our own problems. You mean this country doesn't have enough consultants that could have done that work? Did it have to be the IMF to come with their boys from Washington and come and diagnose the governance and structure of our country and then prescribe these solutions? For me, I frown upon that. So I've rejected it, and I hope that my party does reject that report because it doesn't have any originality. It's a foreign document. Foreigners come, they spend 2-3 weeks in your country, sitting at Pamosi and Intercontinental Hotel or Radisson Blu, and they call various experts, they call civil society, and they come up with a document which they prescribe to you what you should do. So it's not comprehensive, it's not local.
But it's also a big challenge, sorry to cut you, it's also a big challenge that these foreigners, when they come here, we seem to listen to them, not only listen to them, but we bow down to them.
The document,
and this has not started
in the executive summary, says, at the invitation of President Hakainde Hichilema. So the IMF didn't come on their own to come and do that diagnostic report. It is at the invitation of President Hakainde Hichilema.
Down to them.
Exactly. And for me, that's what is regrettable. 60 years after independence, 59 years, after independence, we shouldn't be. We should do homegrown solutions, homegrown diagnostic. Or we know what our problems are.
But Ambassador, that won't happen today because at the request of the president, it means it's gone. It's done. This one is a done deal.
So the president is Eurocentric. He believes the Europeans will come and solve the problems. You see how he takes pride. He goes to a European parliament and he says we're in the Champions League because he has addressed a parliament in Europe. You see his pride when he's in Washington or in New York. For us, we regard those as mere partners that should help us fulfill our agenda, not partners that should hijack our agenda, speak down to us, prescribe to us, as in this report that I've just talked about. So the national crisis we have, whether it's in the energy sector, health sector, agricultural sector, or mining sector, the entire crisis that this country is facing, the solution lies with us. It's not with foreigners. But sadly, this government assumes that the solutions will come from foreigners, will come from the IMF, World Bank, or foreign investors.
And when that happens, what are the impediments that we will find? What are the challenges that we will find ourselves going through, if we may even pin it to the current administration in terms of development? Are we going to develop? Or what are we doing? Are we selling the country, as Kaponyas would say? Let's tushepie chalo twakanama apu iwe apu yobe no apu yakwe then we go some.
I saw a comment pari load shedding at moment wakwalisa Zambia twisalefye wanze tufumemo tukabwela fitunga fyaba we no twisalefye we look like an empty door, we just house we ngelo tukabwele malaiti ngayabwela bo bantu wakwaliselo tukabwele.
Yeah, but you see, we laugh about it, but it's a very serious thing, and the question I ask still begs to be answered. What then will happen to this country with that? What will be the challenges?
So our people do not see the crisis. For me, that's why I'm engaged in politics. You know, I would have loved to be part of the technocrats behind, like I've been the last 20 years. But things don't change. You know, it's like a circus. You just change the players. The circus is the same that comes to town. Whether the swinger is unwell, the circus will come to town. And that's what development in this country has become. A circus. It doesn't matter how many leaders you change. The circus is the same, you know. But we have to change, wise man. We cannot resign to that fate. Let us discuss the energy crisis. I don't know if you are ready now to discuss.
Please, let's go ahead, actually, on ZESCO.
I had started that President Edgar Lungu had announced in 2020 that there is no load shedding anymore in this country. He was bold to announce that. And when President Hakainde Hichilema came into office, he also announced that there's no more load shedding behind us.
Maybe let's hold it there and say, when President Edgar Lungu was announcing that, would you care to pin down what he had done in that space to inform that announcement, and maybe also we can get to find out what informed the announcement of President Hakainde Hichilema?
So it's very simple. When the Patriotic Front came in government in 2011, we had the power deficit. We had this growing economy, growing at very fast rate at the time, 7-8%. Industries were reopening for the first time, you know, in 20-30 years. The population had grown from about 7-8 million to 14 million at the time in 2011. And among the planning activities to President Michael Sata, we identified infrastructure had not received any attention in the last 30 years. Now, the infrastructure just didn't mean hospitals, schools, roads, bridges, ports, airports. No, it also meant our energy production. We had power deficit. So we had 1,600 megawatts of power in 2011. What did President Michael Sata do? He called Cyprian Chitundu. He was Cyprian Chitundu, who was the managing director at ZESCO. I know about the plans you have. Bring those plans. What should be upgraded? And an ambitious energy production infrastructure started. So, under the PF, both President Michael Sata and President Edgar Lungu, we upgraded Lunzua Power Station in Mpulungu. It was a small power station just feeding Imbala, the Zambia Air Force Airport, and parts of Mpulungu. It was at 0.75 megawatts. It was upgraded to 15 megawatts. Kasama, there's an old power station, 6 megawatts. It was upgraded. Chishimba was upgraded to 15 megawatts. Musonda Force in Kawambwa, a small power station, I think 0.75, that was supplying a few areas, upgraded to 15 megawatts. In Serenje, Lusiwasi 1 and Lusiwasi 2, again upgraded from 6 megawatts to 15 and to 12 megawatts, Lusiwasi Upper and Lusiwasi 1. Then we had the big one, Iteji power station. And it was a PPP project. So here we are, ZESCO partnered with a private company, Tata from India, and they did Iteji power on Kafue River. 120 megawatts. Then the mother of all new power stations, the Kafue Gorge Lower, which was planned for $2.1 billion at 750 megawatts. So if you look at our traditional power sources, Kariba, which was doing 720. Oh, there's another one which was done at Kariba. What we call Kariba North Bank Extension, 360 megawatts, was also done. So the traditional ones is Kariba, it was producing 720. Kafue Gorge, the original one, it was producing 990 megawatts. And with these additions that were made by the PF, that is why President Edgar Lungu was confident. Because remember, power generation is a mammoth investment. It has cost us about $4 billion. It's a mammoth investment, huge construction projects. They take 5 to 10 years to come online. So by 2020, after suffering those load shedding in 2015, 2017, 2019, by 2020, that's why President Edgar Lungu was confident and declared load shedding is over. Because if you look at our capacity, it jumped from 1,600 megawatts to 3,456 megawatts. What is our national demand? Our national demand is about 1,500 megawatts. But at peak, when everything is on, the smelters from the mines are on, your lights are on, your feeding buffet on, is 2,300 megawatts. Yet our installed capacity rose to 3,456 megawatts. We are the surplus. And there is something he did in the energy sector. He invited what we call independent power producers. At the time before 2011, there were just two independent power producers, who was Lunsemfwa Hydro. Remember, it used to be owned by ZCCM. It's the oldest hydropower station. It was built in 1925 from Kabwe. There are two dams, Mulungushi and Lunsemfwa. That was privatized by ZCCM when we're selling the mines. It was given to the private sector. That was the only independent power supplier. But under the PF, new independent power producers came online. This is Mwamba Colliery's power company, the one you saw where the president visited. It was a joint venture. Again, it was a public-private partnership. You had ZCCMIH invest 35%. And you had a company from Singapore / India, Nana Technologies, Nava, invest 65%. And you have 300 megawatts produced from that independent power producer. We had Ndola Energy. That took advantage of Indeni because the heavy oils go to waste. When we process our crude, you get petrol, you get diesel from Indeni, and you get 4 other products. It produces about 6 products. One of the products was the heavy fuels. So this investor came and set up Ndola Energy, 110 megawatts, which was feeding off the feedstock from Indeni Petroleum Refinery. And recently, in partnership with the United States, they are promoting what they're calling it's a power project for solar. Wherever there is a private solar, wherever there is a solar project, the US are providing finance to the private sector to set up those solar projects. So as a result of that partnership, we have 2 major solar farms in Zambia. Number 1, Bangweulu solar farm. It's in Lusaka M-Phase. It's producing 54 megawatts. It's a good site. Our media should visit there. Ngonye power station, again in Lusaka M-Phase, is producing 34 megawatts. These are solar projects. So you can see that even our energy mix became better. We had energy from heavy fuels, from Ndola Energy. We had energy from coal, thermal, from Mwamba Collieries. Then ZESCO took advantage of our hydro situation in the country and set up hydro power stations. If you look at the statistics, we are not supposed to have load shedding. So why do we have load shedding, wise man?
That's a big question to ask. And before we get to that, probably, we do know we have load shedding, and we can't hide away from it. It's so dark that you can feel it and touch it. So with all of those that have been mentioned, one starts to think that, okay, it's a project. Was it completed and was it running? for you to be able to then say that exactly these are the megawatts of power that we have. At peak, we have this because it's there, it's being generated. Or are we saying just numbers?
So the large-scale one, Kariba North Bank extension was done, 360 megawatts. Working. Kafue Gorge, few machines were installed. It's supposed to be 750 megawatts. Each machine, 150. 600 now. It's at 600 because there's one machine that they're remaining to install. Itejiteji, full working. Mamba, as a private sector, working. Bangweulu, solar, Ngonye, solar, full working. Ndola Energy, they're all working. What we call small hydros, they're all working. Ndola Energy has shut down because Indeni is closed. It's linked, it's a twin to Ndola, to Indeni refinery. So Ndola Energy is down there. Maybe they need to find mechanisms. Maybe they need to use rail to bring that heavy fuels on, because it's a lot of oil that you have to use for those engines. They use their jet engines. So Ndola Energy is currently down unless you give it feedstock. It is down. But Mamba Collieries, 150 is working, 150 is doing routine maintenance.
Give or take with what is working, I would like us to maybe show a switch. In 2021, if you can remember and share with us, when we had load shedding, at what level did we have it? Because now we have load shedding, 6 hours off, 6 hours on.
So the worst load shedding we had was in 2015. Because remember, all our power stations that I was talking about were under construction. And we faced what is called El Nino, the El Nino weather effect. It comes once in 30 years. So we had the worst drought in 2015, 2016. We had load shedding sometimes going up to 12 hours in 2015. The power station went down. We had the biggest drought in the last 30 years. 2017, there were some minor droughts, flash floods. 2019, they are attributable to that, but also because all the machines that were under construction were coming online. So load shedding was there, I would not hide. The worst was 2015, when it was around 12 to 15 hours. 2017 one was not as severe as the 2015 one. 2019 load shedding was also there, but not as severe as the 2015. So load shedding was there. But like I said, by 2020, load shedding had ended because all the machines had come online. Zambia had a dedicated surplus by 2020.
Let's come now to the current administration, still on power, and just one of the major ones that we will look at, infrastructure, so to speak. And you now have President Hakainde Hichilema coming into office, and he says within 1 year, and this is to Parliament address, within 1 year we have ended load shedding. You're not part of his administration, but in following matters from where you speak from, where do you fully live, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, here? So, Wiseman, it's very simple. The current load shedding is not as a result of weather patterns. It's not as a result of poor rainfall. We must make that very clear to our people. We've had good rainfall from 2020. Look at the meteorological information. I was looking at it now. We had the best rains in 2020. We came down a bit in 2021. We've gone up a bit in 2022. 2023 we are going up. We have had above normal rainfall for the last 3 years. So we must make it very clear to our people. The low water levels in Kariba Dam has nothing to do with the weather pattern or climatic change.
Maybe that's why he said we have ended load shedding, because USPF last year or so, you were talking that the waters are lower, and that story could not be bought until finally it was agreed that yes, the waters, the technical issues and all that. But when the president came and said he has ended load shedding, that made me feel like, wow. This is why he said he was going to fix things.
Yeah. So, yes, load shedding, like I'm saying, load shedding ended. So why do we have this crisis? We have had good rainfall. We haven't had a drought. Why do we have load shedding? It's very simple. Let's go back. There is a company called Zambezi River Authority. This is a joint company created by the two countries. You know, when we're building Kariba, were a federated state when we started these plans in 1953. So they formed a Central African power company that then would develop Kariba Bank. At independence, we devolved it to two separate companies from Zimbabwe and Zambia. So it is now called Zambezi River Authority. The Zambezi River Authority was in charge of the assets of the dam, was in charge of managing the Zambezi water resource. And because it's jointly owned by the two countries, especially for Kariba Lake, they had to have this administration. The way it structures is supported by two legislation, one from Zimbabwe, one from Zambia. The headquarters is in Zambia. Chacha Road. Parapanchpadi was Esco Pamulu. That is Zambezi River Authority. The managing director always comes from Zimbabwe. That's by legislation, because we host Zambezi River Authority headquarters. The deputy comes from Zambia. How does it run? It's run by a council of ministers. So the Minister of Energy from Zimbabwe and the Minister of Energy from here. Then it has management, permanent secretaries who form the board. Then you have the actual management of the managing director and others. They allocate water to ZESCO and to ZESA, Zimbabwe Electric Supply Company, or their mother company, Zimbabwe Power Company, ZPC. So every year, like now, studying, they have scientists, they study how much rainfall are we receiving. That will trickle into, from all tributaries into the Zambezi. How much will the lake hold for the whole year? These guys are generating power. How much water do they need? So the current load shedding is as a result of that mismanagement process. ZESCO is allocated water. Zimbabwe is allocated water. And they both misused the water. Zambia, because they were churning out these exports. Zimbabwe, they are going to elections, they're in trouble. They don't have the amount of installed power that Zambia has. They rely heavily on Kariba. We don't. We can actually switch off Kariba and still generate power. Because our biggest power producer is on Kafue. It is 120 megawatts. Kafue Gorge, 990 megawatts. Kafue Gorge Lower, 750 megawatts. So we've done well. We've diversified. We've built more power stations. Zimbabwe is not. So they were allocated water to use. So you don't switch on all the machines, because you have to stagger your period of production so that you don't utilize all the water in the lake. That's why I'm saying the current load shedding is a mismanagement issue by ZESCO, and Zimbabwe company is an abuse of water resource by ZESCO management. They failed to manage the resource. The water allocated.
It's kind of annoying and confusing
Yes.
to some extent. Where were we? Because you're talking about the Council of Ministers, and you're talking we've got a deputy and all this and that, and now we see President Hakainde Hichilema. He's up your hand, and people, I don't know why they. Their hands. I'm trying to build up to that. Now we have the managing director of ZESCO saying our water was stolen, and it had to take the president to go there, talk, sit with people, and then that's when somebody comes up and says our water was stolen. Should we buy that story?
No, they are scapegoats. This government has a habit of blaming the PF, blaming civil. Now they're blaming Zimbabwe. Now someone stole their water, so they're just not a serious leadership. So I was emphasizing that the current load shedding has nothing to do with the weather. It has nothing to do with the low water levels. It is an abuse of water resource. And if you go to the Zambezi River Authority website in Zimbabwe, they warn them that at the rate you are using, you will finish your water resource, your allocated water resource, by October. August was now a red warning to Zimbabwe and Zambia. Go to their website, you find it. November, then you've crossed the line. You no longer can produce power, both to Zambia and Zimbabwe. For Zimbabwe, they said you had allocated.
And then we've added exports to that. Are we making money? Is that a wise decision to make, that we're exporting some of it? So that, because I'm trying to look at it, if it were me, I'd look at it and say, okay, if I give power to the Zambians, this is X amount of money we're going to make.
So here is a mismanagement. Here is a mismanagement. By April, we have excess power. We have over 1,200 megawatts of power. the ZESCO managing director looks at the numbers, goes to Namibia and signs a 10-year agreement to sell power to Namibia, 180 megawatts.
When was this agreement signed?
April. Yeah, go to our literature. You'll find that the managing director, proudly, he was at a power utility association in Africa, in Senegal. He's on record, announced, he announced a success at a power utility association in Africa. I think they were in Dakar, Senegal, where he said, we have 1,200 excess, and I have signed these agreements. And there's another announcement from Namibia, Nam Power, as they call it. Again, they are celebrating. They said, load shedding is over for Zimbabwe. South Africa and ESCOM are having problems. They have 12-hour load shedding. We will not have a single load shedding because Zambia, besides the 100 megawatts we would buy from Zambia, we have renewed our contract and we are now at 180 megawatts. And we've been assured that power will not be cut. Zimbabwe, they are going to elections next year. Yes. You saw the Minister of Energy boast. Yes, there is low power shedding, low power production at Kariba, but that's not a problem. Zambia is giving us emergency power, 100 megawatts dedicated.
I'll tell you, Ambassador, we're making so much money, so we shouldn't be worried that we are load shedded. We're making so much money, which probably we will channel to other sides of development.
That's where the problem has been. So you would shot them at Mukaladia once in 2 days.
We're talking on politics.
Now he's talking like an Easterner. No, that's poor planning. So the excess we had in April was not the excess you'll have in December, because water levels differ. And also you have to take into consideration all the parameters, all the information. ZESCO must know what the water levels are in December, in January, before we have the peak again between March and August.
Now that they've messed up, where do we go and what can we say in terms of politics and development? Because we're now seeing the president, the entire president, stepping out of his office at State House to go and find out what exactly is going on. It starts to make me shudder.
Number one, the president must listen to his experts. The president must listen to experts. He's the one that wants to talk down to experts. And let me demonstrate. On 3rd December, his Minister of Energy, Honorable Peter Kapala, announces to Parliament, before Parliament went on recess, 3rd December 2022, that our water levels have been depleted. Zambezi River Authority have told us we can generate power, so we have to rationalize our exports and domestic demand. So we have to rationalize from our calculation, we have to do load shedding of 6 hours for a period of 2 to 3 months, because we'll have good water by March. He announced that on 3rd December in Parliament. There was an uproar, but people understood. The president is in the US to sign that electric vehicle battery value chain on the 15th. The president stops the load shedding. That was due on the 15th. He comes back on the 19th and he calls for a press conference on the 20th. On the 20th, he says, exports, remember we're demanding, cancel exports. We're demanding mitigation measures so that our people do not suffer 6-hour load shedding. We are churning out information. Look at the power supply you have. Look at your generation capacity. Look at there's no need to load shed our people to 6 hours. Maybe you can do 3 hours or 1 hour a day, not 6 hours.
Maybe we're not really suffering, are we?
I'm analyzing. The president, on 20th, you saw his arrogance on 20th December. He says we will not stop any exports. It will affect our market. There's no way I'm going to lose that market. Number two, he says there's no Zambian that will be load shedded. Wise man, have you been load shedded? Have you been load shedded? He asked people. That's how confident he was with information, that he can do both. Zambians will not be load shedded, and Zambians will not stop its exports. For once, the president must have called his Minister of Energy. Mr. Minister, what has informed your decision that will subject Zambians to 6-hour load shedding? Where is this information? Is it valid? Have we engaged stakeholders? Where is ZESCO?
We are the dark sheep.
Yeah. So the president must have not rushed to the media, because it makes him look a liar.
We are the dark sheep.
Yes, it makes him look a liar. He is no longer credible, because as forcefully as he speaks, As eloquent as he speaks, his words now become rhetoric because it's overturned just the following day. So when he comes up 2 weeks later and he wants to visit Kariba and Mamba, we are laughing at him. Look, they told you there'll be load shedding. You stopped the load shedding. You said there'll be no power export. The other day, they even issued a statement that we've listened to the stakeholders and to Zambians. We are going to suspend power exports. Have they? No. No single one.
We're talking with Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba here, who is the presidential aspirant for the Patriotic Front, and we're talking politics and development, and we have touched so much on the energy side. We do hope that you are picking one or two things and understanding whether this country is developing and whether we're doing the right thing. And what we will do now is we'll take your calls on 0977 977 860. If you are following us on Facebook, that's on Lusaka Music Radio Facebook page. We are also on Smart Eagles Facebook page. Drop your question. We are taking your calls. You are through to Politics Analyst. Good morning. Good morning. You are through to Politics Analyst. Your question, contribution. Very well. If you can, within a minute, please. Your name, your contribution or question.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. I think his word is very clear. He's blaming you for having done nothing when you were there. And he's also complaining that now things are worse than they were. He was supporting that PF should go out, but now he's regretting because there's no power and the meal is now expensive. It's one of the things that we're going to be discussing here, Ambassador, whilst we're waiting for the calls. The cost of living and this in line with the GDP and the inflation things. You are through to Politics Analyst. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Please go ahead. Your name, your contribution or question. Please go ahead.
Ms. Anjovu, good morning.
Data. And that's the reason why I'm supporting you personally as the PF presidential candidate. You see, it has become so difficult to believe the leadership of UPND because there's a lot of inconsistency, lies. We have taken lies as a basis of governance now because the president is too much of himself. There's too much pride on the side of the president. And I don't think if at all he listens to those that are giving him advice. And the situation that we're in is as a result that the president is like he doesn't get advice from those that are able to advise him. You see, you cannot tell your children you are not going to have any problem in terms of food here. Tomorrow you have a problem. And then when the children are complaining, you go and accuse the neighbor to say it's because of that neighbor. Send me that offense. If it was in you, these lies that the people have been subjected into, integrity tells us that a leader must resign on moral grounds. These people have brilliant ideas in opposition. The situation that we're into, President Data in the HTML used to say, the reason why we are having this shedding is because of lack of leadership. And you, the Zambians, you elected someone who told you that as a vision, he doesn't have a vision for this country. And yet that person whom we thought that he has no vision for this country, he couldn't speak a lot, but he could see the results that he delivered to the Zambian people. He couldn't do everything for people to be happy, but definitely it will be difficult for the Zambian people to forget him in the generation to come. So it's a high time for this
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll stop you right there, my brother. We really appreciate we gave you a little more time. Our idea is that we can take more calls if we can keep it within a minute. So you come in, you punch, and all that. But we really appreciate that was Njovu there. We will take another call, 0977 977 860. You are through to Politics Unleashed. Good morning. Good morning. Please, your name, your contribution or question within a minute. Please go ahead.
Politicians. And sorry, good morning, sir.
Miriam, good morning.
You people don't have consistency. You can't continue with something. Look at PF was in power. UPND came into power. You look at where they left off. What is it that they were doing? But then everyone thinks of, okay, when I get into power, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that, I'm going to do this. You forget about whatever was being done. If somebody is working on hospitals and working with on roads or whatever it is, look at where they left off. Continue with that. We'll never develop like this because somebody wants to come in, bring their new ideas, do this, do that. You talked about the generators, the power stations which were worked on, what PF did, they brought this, they brought that. I think with UPND, what they were supposed to do is look at where PF left and then continue with that. And at the end, we can listen to the people. We don't even get a privilege to listen. Once we are told what you people are going to do for us, then that's it. Afterwards, you get into power, then gone. All you do is do what you want and what you feel is right and look at the country and what you feel is right for the country. But you need to listen to the people as well. Thank you so much. And
we really appreciate your support. And you are through to Politics Unleashed when you call 0977 977 860. Good morning. Very well. If you can, your name, your contribution or question within a minute, sir. You sound so humble today. What has happened, sir?
Yes, Mr. Munsanje.
Tonight, the Nikon previous caller. You are updated. You have got the information. And this is what we want when social leader comes on the radio and want to debate government issues. You have to be updated. You give the information to the people to decide and to judge. So what I don't agree with you is the president. You remember, you as PF, you told the whole nation to say we don't have enough money to finish the programs, the projects. All the projects which are at 80%, you had to halt them. Despite you borrowing money for those projects. Can you explain to me better how you could have handled these projects which were stored at 80%, which is, for me, completely, for me who is in construction, a project which is at 80 is almost complete. Where are you going to find the money, you as my president there now, to finish these projects? If you were the same, you were in the shoes of the current president. And secondly, the issue of monitoring projects. I cannot say it's a cost for me because we have seen that is like the project which was in Luapura University. It was sad the minister to say when I came, that was doing all over. She was surprised with my building like disappear. Why? Because there was no monitoring. So,
thank you so much. Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. He made me laugh in the background. That university thing, I really was like, you went there, no, it's gone. Invisible learning. We will not take that call. Okay, we'll take the fifth call. You are through to Politics Unleashed. We'll take that call and then he can handle the five. We very well, thank you, sir. Your name, your contribution, and question if you can.
Good morning, my dear brother.
The problem that we have in Zambia is not here problem, the UPND problem. I think we follow so much a political party's manifesto instead of a national agenda. I'll give an example of the Great Wall of China. It was built in like 500 years. In 500 years, China had different leaders. Each leader that was coming in, their plan was to continue the Manga Great Wall of China. But the problem that we have is that every time in Zambia we have a political party in power, they are following their party manifesto instead of the national agenda. It's the reason why, even when UPND came into power, they brought in different ministries. As soon as UPND leaves power, PF comes in, or the socialist comes in, they go to different ministries. Why? Because we are following a political party's agenda. We are following an agenda by, for example, you, Mr. Mwamba. We have the National Development Plan. If we can follow the fourth National Development Plan that we had, then they can be developed. We have the National Development Plan. Why do we follow a political party manifesto instead of National Development Plan?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming through. Those five calls, if you can, 1 minute of each, 5 minutes, and then we.
Our brother from Mandevu near Independence, he says cost of living. He says it's the worst, and he's blaming politicians. He says you people are the same. UPF, we voted you out so that the UPND could resolve the cost of living, and these ones are even worse than when we elected them, and that's true. That's why I always emphasize that this government must ensure that they attend to the issues of the economy. That's a priority issue, not where they focus. Mr. Njovu has spoken very well about me. Thank you very much, Mr. Njovu. But there's something he brings, the president. He says the president must listen to his experts. Just look at his misstatement on the crack of the dam. That statement can raise so much alarm worldwide because there are over 3.5 million people. If the dam at Kariba collapsed, down up to Mozambique, and there's never been a crack on that dam, never. I don't know where he got that from. The crisis we have is what is called the plunge pool. The plunge pool is the one that had problems because the force of power dropping towards digging. It's like a sink. So they said you needed to attend to the plunge pool. And then on the dam wall, there are those 6 gates, if you've seen. They're called spillway gates. If you have the dam is overflowed, you want to release some water quickly, you open what are called spill gates. There are 6 of them. They are very old. They are from the 50s. So in repairing the plunge pool, there was an opportunity to modernize the sluice gates. So that maybe they'll be automatic. Maybe they'll just take a button, then someone going to open them manually the way they are. So those are the 2 projects, $294 million that are being done to Kariba. Not that the dam is cracked. The threat the threat of the integrity of the dam is coming from that pool outside where the water falls, called the plunge pool. So if you have a president who's so misinformed, and he says, let's be sure, let's be clear, there are cracks on the dam. Oh my God. And I'm glad quickly his experts came to correct him. The ZESCO board chair was on radio, on your counterpart station yesterday, and he said, let me make it very clear, there is no crack on the dam, because that statement was very alarming. The amount of water that Kariba holds, if there is even a single crack, the threat to collapse of that dam is extremely high. So yeah, thank you very much. The president must listen to experts. He can't be the expert on everything. He has to listen more, not talk more, and learn. And that's a trouble for me that I've seen. Mr. Munsanje from Kanyama, my dear brother, he puts me under pressure. But he asks a very important question. PF abandoned projects that were 80% and below. And he says as a construction entity, he knows that these projects are almost complete. How did we plan to deal with them? It was very simple. If you look at our economic recovery plan for 2021, we had stated that as soon as we stabilize, we're coming from COVID, our debt distress was high. We had deployed Lazard to restructure our debt. Exactly what President Hakainde Hichilema is doing is what we're doing, except in this case, he's using the IMF. We were using Lazard to help restructure our debt and cancel, write off, pay later. That process was engaged. We're going to have enough headroom to complete all these infrastructure
and so
projects.
That's where you were going to get the money from?
Yes, of course, from your own money.
Where were you going to get the money?
First, debt service is extremely high. And that's why I feel pity for this government. It's still in a honeymoon. For 3 years, we have not serviced our debt because our Minister of Finance at the time, Bwaliangando, suspended debt service, what people were calling default. So it was Zambia and 48 other countries that said, look, we have this COVID crisis. The G20 have provided for this debt restructuring process. We are going to suspend our debt service so that we have enough money locally to weather the storm of the COVID-19 pandemic. People mocked Wariangando. President Hakainde Hichilema and his people mocked them. They still mock us that you people defaulted. Yet they are enjoying for 3 years the free money. It has accumulated to over $1.3 billion that they are not paying for debt service. So, but this process is coming to an end this year. You have to resolve the crisis. You have to ensure that your creditors committee meet. You have to ensure that your people agree and table this to the IMF, then the IMF will give you a bailout package.
Yeah, but the story is different. Of course, you're going through that. The story is different, that at any given time, for anything that we're finding as a challenge, is that you left a huge burden of debt, not that you were working on things. So how do you marry the two to explain now, to tell us now that that's what was happening? Because President Hakainde Hichilema, in his first statement, when he was inaugurated, is that we inherited empty coffers.
First of all, that was just a story. Look, he had $3 billion of reserves. How can you say? He had medicine stocks of 6 months. He found surplus everywhere. He was not paying for any debt because there was a suspension in debt service. What empty coffers? He found it better than any president would. But so politically...
Are you then saying that UPND is in a better position to fix things? They shouldn't actually be worried?
No, they're not in better position. In fact, that's why I should marry the answer to the young lady, Miriam Lungu. She said, you politicians, why don't you just continue where your friends left? Because then there's an appreciation. What did our colleagues do? What did our colleagues achieve? How can we build on that? But when you scandalize the work of your friends, then you are forced to start new programs and abandon those programs. And I marry this to what Stanislas also said. Why don't you follow national programs? Why are you partisan in approach? If the PF is building a bridge and is at 80%, it's a national bridge. It doesn't belong to the Patriotic Front. Finish that bridge. If the PF is putting up milling stations under the defense, finish. Don't say Fiaba PF. And this, what Miriam and Stanislas are saying, is one and the same thing, continuity. Look at your national program. What does your national development plan say? What did the 7th national development plan say? What did the midterm, expenditure plan say? How can we then plan? Then you talking, shooting from the hip like you can start new program. You quickly look a liar and people lose confidence in you because you are saying things that take 5 years to mature, 10 years to mature. If you embrace what your friends did, the maturity period is easier. That's why the president has been quick to commission projects. He goes to Mwinilunga, he commissions a fruit factory. He looks smart like it's his project when it's his predecessor's projects. He comes to Kenneth Kaunda International Conference at Mulungushi. He opens it in flamboyance. This is one of the best modern architectural design you have, and you have this state-of-the-art conference facility. He's basking in the glory. It's been done by your colleagues. You go to Mwami border, an ultra-modern border that has been built by the PF, you commission it. So my point is, if you embrace the work of your predecessor, it becomes easy for you to even look like a success. But first you scandalize them. So when you scandalize them, you call them thieves, you call them criminals, you say they are violent, but you are quick and smiling at their projects. People wonder, we want to work on this.
He has made it very clear that please, Zambians, don't even clap for PF. This is your taxpayers' money, so forget that they did.
But when he employs teachers, he wants us to clap. When he employs health workers, he wants us to clap. When he does anything, CDF he increases, he wants us to clap. Is that his money?
Actually,
so why wouldn't? Yeah, why?
Someone says teachers is not employment.
It's recruitment. It's recruitment. But the point is, the UPND in their rhetoric, in their narrative, they want us to clap for them that have increased CDF money. Hey, is that their money? It is people's money. All we are saying is that the initiative to do these projects, there is no harm in acknowledging that, okay, guys, this was started by our colleagues, and they did a fantastic job. This is a good project, to embrace it. We think that is benefit for our people.
Back and forth. We will keep talking, and then we'll get to the cost of living as we are almost coming to the end. You're through. Please go ahead, Sanjay.
Yes, Mr. Munsanja. Yeah.
Bamsanje, can I just hold you there, Bamsanje? I think let's get away from the politics of this is our project, that is not your project, because I think that much of that has been started by UPND or PF said Sontopo Abomba and all that. But maybe let's save some time. Let us save some time. I think from other callers, it's been made very clear. Continue with the projects that others have left, and don't call the projects you started as your project. They are national projects. I think that's very clear. Sorry, I thought I should come in. So I'll cut that line. Sorry, Wamsanje, I'll cut that line. Sorry. So that we can give other people to say something different. I think that has been clarified.
Thank you, Mr. Monsanje.
Thank you so much for coming through again for the second time. This is Politics Unleashed. You're calling us on 0977 977 860. There's no one who owns projects. President Hakainde Hichilema also doesn't own any projects, and as he is commissioning whatever he's commissioning, everyone must understand. PF, you kept on saying Sontopo Wabomba when somebody was not even in office. I think that was also arrogant, but we're saying it's campaigns and politics. The cost of living, Ambassador, one fails to understand that you are saying the country is growing at X percentage of GDP, and that also the inflation is now single digit, but then I can't afford to buy Millimil anymore and all this and that. And if you can, please, that food basket, cost of living, if you can marry it to the 2022-2023 farming season. Yeah, so to lower the cost of living, you have to attend to primary issues, issues of food, issues of transport, and issues of employment. And this government has done very poorly at that. They've bungled the FISIP program, which supplies, which feeds our country. You have put at risk over 1.1 million beneficiaries of the FISIP program who farm for themselves to alleviate their own poverty and then sell to us through FRA. You've bungled it, you've threatened food supply next year because in the manner you've bungled the fertilizer program. Fuel remains expensive. You have no plan for Indeni. You want to turn Indeni and Tazama into a finished product programs, despite
documents and documents telling you what you need to do for Indeni. Indeni simply is that, look, Indeni as a refinery requires $500 million. We are going to pay Mwamba Collieries, we owe them $500 million. And the president, you said we are going to pay. If you can find $500 million to pay those private people, what about your national strategic entity like Indeni? Give it a new refinery. You have a pipeline from Tazama built by Dr. Kaunda, strategic national asset. Let it courier any crude, because when you upgrade it, you then can process crude from Angola, from Nigeria. You will not be selected in the manner. There's a commingled one that we do. It has to come from Saudi Arabia, mix it with or Iran or Ukraine and mix it with some diesel, then you pump it. But when you develop Indeni, you'll have resolved the crisis of middlemen. You'll have resolved the crisis of expensive fuel. They found fuel at 17 kwacha. It is at 27 kwacha. They reduced a bit by 1 kwacha, but it's still very expensive for our people. So how will you attend to the cost of living like that? You tamper with the agriculture sector, which should feed our people and provide for cheap foods. You have not attended to fuel costs. You know, when the fuel cost is high, everything else is carried on the back of fuel. Everything is expensive, and we are import dependent. Your exchange rate is not stable. From November, the exchange rate has been going up. It has now found a home at the age of 18. That's where so you have a crisis with the cost of living. And projects, you have not paid your suppliers and contractors, so there's no money in the economy. You have people that run the economy, ministers at finance and the colleagues at Bank of Zambia, who believe in numbers, who believe that they have to lower the inflation rate to a single digit, and they celebrate. So they will restrict money supply so that you don't have any money to spend, and it will show in the statistics. People don't have money. There's just no money in the economy. They will achieve their numbers, and they will look like they are doing very well. The leaf is from China. If you are serious about economic growth, you have to post an economic growth in excess of 10% per year, consistently for 20 years. You will see meaningful change in the country. Economic growth that we are posting, 2%, 3%, those are jokes. We have to be serious. 10%. That's why we should not play with the mining sector in the manner they are dealing with it, like their kindergartens. You have to deal with the agricultural sector in a serious manner. You have to set path for industrial growth in this country at a far faster, aggressive way. That your economic growth is at 10% and above for you to then, alleviate poverty from our people and create jobs. But I don't see any seriousness from any of the programs that have been deployed to attend to our poverty, to attend to our unemployment, to attend to the industrialization of this country.
We're talking with Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, presidential aspirant for the Patriotic Front. You are through to Politics Unleashed. Good morning, Jimmy. How are you? If you can, within a minute or so.
Mr. Jimmy, good morning.
Where are we missing the point? Tell me, as far as I'm concerned, if we are serious, within a 10-year period, it can be a paradise. But the problem that is there every time, and that is politicking, rhetorics, and the like. Emmanuel Mwamba, what is it that you are going to do differently? The issues were here.
Fantastic. Much appreciated. I think, cheers, Jimmy. You can hear the energy, 2023 energy. Jimmy sounds to be totally different this year. I mean, he's saying we've got problems. Yeah, totally. I mean, he's now saying we have got problems. He never accepted that we had problems. And I'm happy he's throwing it at you. And he's asking as if he's saying you're coming back into power. He's saying, what are you going to do differently? So in case you are back in power anyway.
So the last 50 years, with all types of national documents, thought through plans, all statistics are available. What we need is just proper leadership, committed leadership that's not driven by corporate interests, that's not driven by corruption, that's driven by theft, that has national interests at heart. This country, all the plans are out there. Dr. Kaunda laid a very good foundation, resolved the issue of Indeni, resolved the issue of Tazama. You have cheap fuel for a long time. Energy sector, what we started, diversify your sources. We have uranium, you can put up a nuclear power station, and those nuclear power stations produce my humongous amount of megawatts. Maybe a small station can do 10,000 megawatts. I visited one in Cape Town, a small station. It does 2,000 megawatts. So we have coal in Mamba, in Sinazongwe. We have reserves of 270 years.
Where are we missing it is Jimmy's question. Where are we missing it?
Leadership issue and petty issue in politics. We don't come to radio, we come to insult one another. We don't discuss ideas and politics and solutions. We regard each other as enemies and enemies against each other instead of being friends of development. We don't tackle the issue of poverty and unemployment as a national crisis. It is reduced to politics. So the young people are unemployed, I'll turn them against you so that I get power from you. We never discuss the solutions we are discussing. I never find meaningful engagement and discussions because people quickly deteriorate to the petty issues, to the insults. And I wish that this country was serious, that we just discuss how we can this country far better. No one person has all the knowledge. No one person is more wise. These assertions that because I'm president, I know better is a sad assertion, and it should end. This country can be far better than it is.
Fantastic. We are talking with Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, who is a presidential aspirant for the Patriotic Front. You are through to Politics Analyst. Good morning. Good morning, please. If you can speak up and you tell us your name. Please go ahead.
The presidency saying that the argument that you are giving us is also given to our president. Instead of them producing studies, it was insane.
Yeah, the line is quite bad. The line is quite bad. Sorry, my brother, we'll just drop that line. It's quite bad, but we did hear a bit of it. 0977-977-860 is the number you're calling us on Politics Analyst. With me, Henry Wiseman Zulu, I'm talking with Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, who is a Patriotic Front aspirant, presidential aspirant, and we are looking at matters that have to do with politics and development, and quite a lot has been covered, and we appreciate you that are following us on Facebook, those of you that are following us on the Lusaka Music Radio Facebook page live, and those that are following on the Smart Eagles Facebook page. Ambassador, as we're coming to the end of the program, there's quite a lot of many other matters that we would have discussed, but maybe before we end, I would like to ask you if it were possible for you to come and sit on that seat and another a minister from UPND sit on the other seat. This is what we have been trying to do, that you can engage in that discussion, because you sound like you want politics that has to do with facts and matters that will bring development to. Do you think you can tell?
Yes, why not? It's not a political contest for me. For me, it's a love for debate. One time I was on radio and the Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry burst into the meeting. I said, why not? Minister said, yes, I said, Minister, mom kwetama solution. If what kwetama proposals, why not? And we had a wonderful discussion. So it's not a political contest. It's about the love for our country. But let me begin to end where we started. The current load shedding we have is unnecessary. Number one. Two, is as a result of mismanagement. It has nothing to do with the weather. The law of Kariba is a misuse of resource where people are churning out against informed advice, where Zambezi River Authority told them in May, reduce your production in this sector. August and in November there has been that. Even in November, when they gave Zambia the notice that you've utilized your water, we didn't see any agency. In fact, the entire government was in denial. What is the solution? Power export. Zambia is exporting to Namibia, 180 megawatts, to Zimbabwe, 100 megawatts, to Botswana, 70 megawatts, to DRC is going up to 300 megawatts. Malawi, our traditional exports, we export to them. They also export, support our two towns, Chama and Lundazi. It's a quid pro quo there, we can leave them. We export to Tanzania, we export to Eskom, South Africa. We export all the time we have any excess under what is called the Southern Africa Power Pool. My call to this government is sit down. This is a lot of power going outside. Can you see how you can quickly reduce it in the next 3 months? Because the dam, especially Kariba, will be back in March. Can you save our people? Our tailors? Can you save our shopkeepers? Can you save our welders? Can you save our, the barber shop, the barberman and his salon? Can you save lives in hospitals? Oxygen. You have a crisis. They die. These things have direct loss to our people. So can you suspend the power exports for now? ZESCO, you need to take action on ZESCO. When Mwamba Collieries is going to service his machines, they give you a notice well in advance because they need to get the spare parts, the service parts. They tell you 1 year in advance, my machine will be off this time. So to come and express surprise that why is Mwamba servicing the plant now? Is it sabotage? It's not sabotage. They gave a notice a year in advance. You have to resolve the issue of Ndola Energy, which is associated with Indeni. We have to ensure that we utilize the resource in Kariba properly, So the solutions are there. So my call is, they are already suffering from the highest cost of living in 30 years. Sure. How will they survive? So reduce your exports. For example, you are giving Namibia 180 megawatts. That's a lot of power. Just get 80 and give it to Lusaka and Copperbelt. We know what the mines consume. We know what Lusaka consumes. We know what Copperbelt consumes. We know what the northern part of our country consumes. We know what our southern part of our country consumes. Why don't you rationalize this just for 2 months? So I'm not seeing solutions.
Maybe we can't do that because we already put pen to paper and we said this is what we will give you. So there will be an uproar from the client. So we are stuck.
No, we are not stuck. Most of us have tenants, have a tenant.
You can negotiate.
I can just give them a notice. Mwana, nalabwelela mwana yandi. Okay, mwana, chitefi, there is no contract that doesn't have any variation. Every contract, no matter how inked, has a suspension clause, an exit clause, or what we call a force majeure.
Renegotiation.
Force majeure is an act of God. If something happens that is beyond your capacity, a storm comes, destroys your dam, it's where you're going to get your power from. And the fear by the president that if we suspend exports, we'll lose the market. Can you sit down with experts? Even just for a solar plant, which is the fastest way to come online, it takes 18 months after financial closure. I heard him say 6 months. 6 months comes after financial closure. Because you have to go out, get the money, and then build the solar power station. For hydropower station, it's 5 to 10 years. We share by March which country will have their own power source. None. Who can build a power station within 3 months? Mr. President, you will not lose anyone. In fact, that's why our plans are that Zambia's export should be electricity. That should be our major export, not even copper, not even agricultural products.
Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, presidential aspirant for the Patriotic Front, we thank you so much for coming to Politics Unleashed.
Thank you very much, and thank you to our audience. Thank you to Mr. Munsanje and everyone else at CORD. Thank you for your ideas and views. And to our dear listeners that were listening to us, thank you very much. God bless you. Let's develop this country together.
Until next week at the very same time, for and on behalf of my producer, Alif Kalipinde, my name is Wiseman Zulu, saying bye-bye, and God bless Zambia.
Development.
Just not for her to stop the live stream.
She will.
Must share their vision and actions for a better Zambia.